the pocket, looks down the field at Deion Kane, and he collects it for a Clemson touchdown. Clemson in the pocket, shoots it downfield for Kane again, who makes a diving catch for a touchdown. And taking a shot, losing the ball. Clemson's got it. Watson keeps it, pitches it across the middle. Touchdown, Williams. Forsyth out of the backfield, didn't see him and throws a pick. Slant, Scott fights free and walks in. A 1-2 punch from the Tigers.
This was one of Clemson's greatest games because there were two storylines. The quarterback situation between Kelly Bryant and Trevor Lawrence was one storyline. The second storyline, which got lost in the shuffle a little bit, this was a revenge game for Clemson. Syracuse had beaten them the year before.
So Monday, I actually go to the team meeting. That's one of the great things that Coach Sweeney allows me to do is I go to the team meeting. Now, Mondays is a late team meeting because they practice in the evening on Monday night. So I walk out in the practice field, and kind of everything. Then all of a sudden you just hear there's like this buzz is going around, and then you look around and you figure out Kelly Bryant's not here.
Oh boy, the buzz is out there all over the Clemson community with this news.
Quarterback Kelly Bryant found out he was no longer going to be starting for Clemson. He announced Tuesday morning he would be taking his talents elsewhere.
Dabo Sweeney decided to make a change from the starting quarterback position and elevate Trevor Lawrence into that position and put Kelly Bryant as the second stringer, even though he had not lost a game. He was 16-2 as a starter for his career.
I can tell you as a public relations professional, probably the worst time for your phone to die and to need to get a new phone is right whenever your previous starting quarterback is apparently not at practice that evening.
Yeah, that week on campus when Kelly decided to transfer, he didn't show up to practice. Nobody really heard from him, so we just thought he was taking time for himself, which is just fine considering what was going on. But as a team, we just really didn't know. So nobody was really asking questions. Nobody really wanted to ask a question because we didn't want somebody to blow up on us.
But inside the locker room, I think we hated that situation happened. We hated it for Kelly, but we had a game to win. And so Trevor's our quarterback. We're behind him 100%.
The fan base was a little bit divided. I mean, you had people that loved Kelly Bryant and thought he should remain the starter. You had people that loved Trevor Lawrence and kind of saw what he could be.
I think from a Clemson fan base perspective, when they heard the news that Kelly Bryant wasn't at practice and was he still with the team, it was more of a feeling of, okay, he was just going to collect his thoughts and gather himself, knowing that he was just demoted to second string. But I think everybody thought he was going to be coming back, but that didn't happen.
So that was a little bit of a strange situation where you have the number 3 ranked team in the country making a change at quarterback, and the guy who was your starter leaves the team.
I think a lot of people wondered whether or not there was a different vibe around that football program whenever the change was made. I think what they failed to understand is the veteran nature of that football team and how professional that team really was. Having too many good quarterbacks is not a crisis. That was a feature for us, not a bug. So they believed in Kelly and they believed in Trevor, and whether we rolled out number 2 or number 16 on Saturday, the team was confident they were going to get it done.
No coach wants drama going into anything, especially when you're undefeated and you're taking on an undefeated team that is coming in Syracuse that had given Clemson problems already prior to that and seemed to have Clemson's number. So you don't want any of that.
Syracuse had beaten Clemson the previous year in 2017, and in retrospect, it was a shocking win because it was the last win of the year for Syracuse. They would end up the season with a 4-8 record.
When we walked into the team meeting room for Syracuse week, Sweeney already had all the videos pulled up, all the clips from last year, the bad plays, and he kind of set the tone for the week, just kind of getting guys that chip on their shoulder. Just, you feel uncomfortable when you watch that. You say, how did we lose to Syracuse last year?
The intrigue of not only a matchup of 2 undefeated teams in late September in the year of 2018 with Syracuse and Clemson, but how are the Tigers going to respond with Trevor Lawrence at quarterback against the Orange? It was one of the most interesting weeks leading into a game that I could ever remember.
Challenging week to be a Clemson fan with all the adversity going on, everything leading up to this ball game. Clemson fans were just ready to go sit in Death Valley, watch Clemson get an easy win. Little did they know the biggest adversity was yet to come.
Gatorade packs carbs to refuel and electrolytes to replenish, so you can bring the heat. Nothing beats Gatorade.
So what makes your house a home?
Sitting on the front porch, relaxing at the end of the day.
Hands down, my wife's spaghetti.
A sense of security.
I'd say making it my own.
Playing with my son, definitely.
Or whatever makes your house a home, we're here to protect it.
I remember when I was a little girl and maybe I had a tough day at school. I'd go up the stairs to my room and turn on some music because I knew that the music would make me feel a certain way. And with the help of my life scholarship, I was able to major in music performance and bring that healing quality to others. And I get to help them find whatever it is that they're looking for. I get to be a part of that.
Gatorade packs carbs to refuel and electrolytes to replenish, so you can bring the heat. Nothing beats Gatorade.
We're getting ready to run down the hill, and I just remember on the team bus riding into the top of the hill. It's quiet, and people are completely locked in because we knew Syracuse came ready to play. Eric Dungy, the Syracuse quarterback, phenomenal player, had a lot of mouth, a lot of talking, and so we remember that from the year before. We remembered everything, and they earned that. They beat us fair and square, and so they kind of were riding high coming into that game, and we knew, like, man, they think they can come to Death Valley and beat us. And so it wasn't a lot of talking. It was just a lot of motivated mindset.
They put a little fuel to the fire, especially at Media Day. Clee told us that Dungy was talking a little something to him and mouthing off. And we've never really been like that at Clemson. We've always just been super humble and super proud of what we have, and we're always uplifting the other team. But when somebody steps on our toes, where we get, like, you know, it's on now, you really just poke the bear. So we really wanted to do anything and everything we could to just fluster him during that game and just let him know, like, that stuff doesn't fly.
Now, people forget how good Syracuse was this season. Going into the game, they were not ranked, but they were 4-0, and they were averaging 49 points per game.
Syracuse got off to a fairly quick start in the game. They're up 6-0. Clemson comes back, takes a 7-6 lead. People are feeling pretty good about things, and then, you know, second quarter happens.
And on a key third down, Trevor Lawrence, he rolls out to his left, and he's fighting for extra yards because he's a competitor. He's not just going to run out of bounds. And sure enough, as he's trying to fight for those extra yards, a Syracuse defender comes over, and you know a collision is going to happen. And sure enough, it does. And it's a loud thud. You could hear it in the stands, and Trevor Lawrence hits the ground, rolls over, and you could tell he was hurt. And at that point, Death Valley was quiet.
He comes to the sideline and dives forward and is hit at the 50 and stays down. He dove forward head first, got hit and stays down. Did not like that at all.
You can sense it in the stands. You can sense it in the whole stadium. The energy, kind of people just holding their breath. And I can recall I was a little nervous, like, oh man, what are we gonna do here? This is crazy. We lost at one point in the week, our starting quarterback, and then we had our second string get hurt. So now we're to our third string quarterback. But again, it's so weird because when you're in the game, you're only locked in on one thing at the end of the day, and it's how can we get a win? So for offense might have been a little bit more nervous than we were, but for defense, it was business as usual. And it's like, okay, let's win this game for Clemson.
And at that particular time, that not only was Lawrence out of the game, but Syracuse had done a pretty nice job. They kind of controlled the first half of a game that, quite frankly, I thought Clemson would roll in. All of a sudden, there's no Kelly Bryant, there's no Trevor Lawrence, and you looked up at the scoreboard at halftime, and Syracuse has the lead.
Meanwhile, you know, you have the ABC broadcast crew in town. Sean McDonough, Todd Blackledge, and Holly Rowe were calling the game. And obviously, the huge storyline going into this game and what they talked about all the first half is Kelly Bryant's no longer with the program. Trevor Lawrence is your starter. And that's kind of the end of the story. And if he goes down, well, we won't really worry about that. And sure enough, here comes Chase Bryce.
It's nerve-wracking. You got a lot depending on you, trying to keep your season alive. And, like, if we don't win, like, we don't go to the ACC championship.
Yeah, the team had all kinds of confidence in Chase. We never lost doubt in him because we knew what he was doing during practice all through camp and just his preparation. We knew we could really count on him. He makes those throws every day in practice.
Syracuse's offense, they came out and, as we already know, they had a hurry-up offense, but now it's super speed. We're looking to get the play from the defensive coordinator, and they're hiking the ball. So this was something different they added to the game from last year. So we're down, and I remember feeling like, why are we down right now? It was just kind of like, how are we losing to these guys? But that wasn't necessarily what I was dwelling on, but it was still like, man, do they have our number? Kind of in a way, you're thinking, do they have our number? Because this is not the second, this is the third year where we even played Syracuse and the game's been close. So for us, it was like, okay, all right, they're ready. They came to play. And so we just had to just lock in.
At this point, Clemson's now down 16-7 at halftime. And everybody's thinking, what is Clemson going to do? What adjustments are they going to make in the second half to regain the momentum? Well, Coach Sweeney sat his staff down and said, boys, we're going old school. And that meant they were going to run the ball.
Founders Federal Credit Union is your credit union. We are devoted to serving you through good and bad, and through highs and lows. We are committed to standing by you, our members, our communities, our family. Together, we can persevere through these times. We are your credit union, and we are here for you. Relax with Founders Federal Credit Union.
Gatorade packs carbs to refuel and electrolytes to replenish, so you can bring the heat. Nothing beats Gatorade.
When we came back after half, we knew Trevor wasn't going to make it back, so we had all faith in Chase Bryce. As a defense, we never folded, we never doubted or anything like that. We knew we just had to support the offense as best we could, whether that was field position, whether that was getting the ball back, whether it was scoring on defense.
After halftime, there seemed to be a little bit of extra energy and juice as Clemson focused on that run game. And it put Syracuse in a tough spot because no longer could they focus on trying to rattle Chase Bryce. He could just focus on playing football. And that's what he did, making a key throw to Hunter Renfro, who made an amazing acrobatic catch on the third quarter drive that led to a field goal. And then a couple of throws to Justin Ross that led to a scoring touchdown by Travis Etienne. And I remember distinctly hearing the crowd just chanting ETN, ETN after that touchdown. And you could see the confidence that that run and those series played for Chase Bryce leading up to the fourth quarter. Clemson is still down 23-20, and there's only 6 minutes left in the game. They have the ball at their own 6-yard line, staring down 94 yards between them and the opportunity to finally take the lead.
Etienne had been the hot guy throughout the fourth quarter, and he runs the ball, but he's just 1 yard short. So it sets up a 4th and 1. And at this point, Coach Sweeney, decides that he wants to go for it. So he goes to the line of scrimmage to call a play, and a penalty is called on Clemson to make it 4th and 6 instead of 4th and 1. Big difference, probably the difference between calling a running play and a passing play for your inexperienced quarterback.
The one play that you will look back at the 2018 season and circle, and there's a ton of them to do it. But when Chase Bryce on 4th and 6, game's on the line, either make the play or it's a loss. He looked like he had the composure of a guy that's been doing it for 100 years.
It's 4th and 6, and the 2018 season is riding on that 4th and 6. Because if they don't get it, we lose the game, and we knew we can't lose to Syracuse twice in a row. I don't think we can bounce back from that and somehow end up in the playoffs. We just felt that energy, and so we just had faith in our guys at that point. That's all you could do.
So I'm continuing to kind of walk/jog around the stadium to go handle my post-game responsibilities. And I can't see what's happening. And I just hear a huge collective roar. And I was in the hands of Death Valley to tell me what had happened. And then sure enough, I hear pass complete to T. Higgins, first down Clemson.
I see the ball, and I'm like, ooh. I mean, it felt good. It came out nice. I mean, he might catch this in stride. And so luckily, it hit him right there, and he tucks it, boom, first down. And afterwards, it was just like energy. Like I felt the energy within the stadium.
Dabo told everybody, hey, I can win with Chase Bryce. And I know a lot of folks said, it's Dabo just giving you coach speak. Well, man alive, was it ever put on the big screen for Chase Bryce and the Tigers on that 4th and 6?
The interesting part of that final drive is obviously there's probably the most seminal moment in our 2018 national championship season that happens on that game-winning drive, and that's the completion from Chase Bryce to T. Higgins on 4th and 6.
Now, Syracuse still had 41 seconds to go to do something, but this is when Xavier Thomas on the last possession turns in a one-man gang defensive performance.
So now Clemson finally has the lead, but there's still 41 seconds to go in the game, and all eyes are on Eric Dungey. And there's one thing we know about him. He has a lot of confidence, but as he steps back and looks to his left on that first down play, he has no idea that Xavier Thomas is coming around the edge and has him in his sights.
When you put somebody on the ground as hard as he did, it really throws somebody off their game.
Dungey awaits the shotgun snap. Ball still in that right hash. Takes a snap. Here comes pressure. Release it and drop. Xavier Thomas, hello number 3. He measured it, make sure that he hit him flush. Kept his head away from his head.
You could hear the crunch from the impact and then to the ground. When he put him in the ground pretty good. And you get a big guy like Dungey, that'll knock the breath out of you, hit your back like that.
And the game ends with Clemson winning by almost the same score Syracuse had defeated the Tigers the previous year.
After that sack, everybody in Death Valley knew that that game was over. It just seemed to be an exclamation point to signify not only all of the adversity that that team had faced that week, the roller coaster ride of emotions, but just understanding how that team was able to pull together and find a way to win.
So what makes your house a home?
Sitting on the front porch, relaxing at the end of the day.
Hands down, my wife's spaghetti.
A sense of security.
I'd say making it my own.
Playing with my son, definitely.
For whatever makes your house a home, we're here to protect it.
Founders Federal Credit Union is your credit union. We are devoted to serving you through good and bad. And through highs and lows, we are committed to standing by you, our members, our communities, our family. Together, we can persevere through these times. We are your credit union, and we are here for you. Relax with Founders Federal Credit Union.
I remember when I was a little girl and maybe I had a tough day at school. I'd go up the stairs to my room and turn on some music because I knew that the music would make me feel a certain way. And with the help of my life scholarship, I was able to major in music performance and bring that healing quality to others. And I get to help them find whatever it is that they're looking for. I get to be a part of that.
After this victory for Clemson, we learned so much about this football team. This football team had overcome an amazing amount of adversity, not just a week leading up to the game, losing your starting quarterback. You're losing your new starting quarterback during the game. You're overcoming all these turnovers and still finding a way to win. I think this is the week that, I don't want to say the Clemson team grew up, but they kind of did that week, and they realized, even with our backs against the wall, our third string quarterback comes in. Everything that could possibly go wrong went wrong. They still found a way to pull out the victory.
That fueled the rest of the season because it showed who we were deep down inside. When everything's not perfect and there's so much adversity on ESPN, the quarterback situation, just Syracuse always kind of being that nail in our side. I can recall just feeling like, man, that brought this team so much closer together because we really had to go out there and earn that victory.
There are so many words to describe post-game after that Syracuse game, and they're all, I don't want to say conflicting opinions or emotions, but there were so many different ones that all kind of congealed together into one massive wave of emotion. Obviously, there was the relief of winning the game, keeping the undefeated season alive.
If Clemson had lost that game, if Chase Price had not completed that pass, the Tigers would not even have advanced to the ACC championship game because the two teams, Syracuse and Clemson, would have had a 7-1 record, but Syracuse would have the upper hand in the head-to-head meeting.
Clemson had the ball for better than 32 minutes in the game. Syracuse a little over 27. So you had that Syracuse defense out there on the field for about 5 minutes more, but particularly more in the second half. So they started wearing down the Syracuse defense.
There was a sense in Death Valley of relief after the ball game. And this was one of those rare games where you felt like Clemson could actually lose the ball game late in the fourth quarter. Everyone was nervous, on the edge of their seats. Clemson gets the late touchdown, the big sack on Eric Dungy. They found a way to win, and you felt like you had just survived this battle.
I remember Coach Sweeney addressing the coaches right before he talked to the team post-game. And I remember Coach looking up at the assistant coaches and just saying, Danny Ford and Gene Stallings are cracking open a beer. Like that was an old school win, boys.
The other part after the ball game, everybody was worried about Trevor, right? I mean, you'd seen him take this big, vicious hit. He did walk off the field under his own power. If you're watching social media during the game, like everybody is, you're already starting to get the concussion discussions and things like that. So after the ball game, there was a lot of worry whether Trevor was going to be okay or not. Not only was Trevor okay, he went on probably the most historic run as a true freshman in college football as a quarterback after that, literally going scorched earth from his performance from that day in Syracuse all the way through the national title game. Trevor Lawrence showed he was one of the best quarterbacks in the country.
There's a couple parts of that postgame that I'll carry with me for a long time. One was seeing Trevor healthy, but also seeing the pride Trevor had on his face and how much joy he had for Chase Price. Everybody knew a little bit about Trevor, but he was still really getting introduced both on the local and national landscape. Everybody knew him as the phenom, but they didn't really know who he was as a person. And really that post game was the first time I think you really got to see how egoless of a superstar Trevor Lawrence is.
After that game, the locker room was going crazy. It was a party. We were dancing. Everybody's having a good time. Water's being thrown everywhere. We're just so excited and so happy for all the work that we put in that week.
So many things stacked up against Clemson. You had Kelly Bryant leaving at the beginning of the week, so you've got a new starting quarterback. Clemson doesn't play very well in the ball game with multiple turnovers. You lose Trevor Lawrence. You found a way to win at the end. Adversity absolutely everywhere. So when I look back at this one, it's the adversity and the ability to overcome all of that and still get a win that makes this one of Clemson's greatest games.
Rolling off the field, and Clemson finds a way to win it 27-23. The party is on in Clemson, South Carolina.